Mmm. There's just nothing like day old cheesy bread. You know what I mean? Hello. Welcome, as always, to the Dead Dodge Garage Super Boring Sunday streaming special. You're here. You made it. If you're listening to this in the future as a podcast, happy Monday at work. Good evening, Lovejoy, Shitbox, Sanctuary. Oh, hi. Hello, Dan. What is going on? Tater. Am I coming through okay? Little internet thing's yelling at me. Hold on. I gotta do science. Mofo Driver, hello. Welcome. You'll have to forgive the weird shafts of light coming from nowhere. I don't know what that's about, but I couldn't get it to stop, so that's just what things are like. How's everybody's weekend going? Good, very good. The weird little internet warning thing went away, so I guess everything's fine. Let's say it's fine. Oh, Fitz is in the house. Greetings, salutations, all that. If you don't know and you want to play the Dead Dodge Garage drinking game, all you have to do is drink every time I misspeak or say something incorrect. That'll mess you up. Dan Tupper was in my neighborhood yesterday on a parts run. And he didn't call. I was pass. Good call. What was I doing yesterday? Oh, out at the Elmo Raceway, they had try a quarter midget day. So I took my daughter out there. And also my nephews and my niece. And 3 of them drove the little tiny race car around the circle track. My daughter did well. My nephew did really well. And my niece crashed into a track official. It was pretty cool, though. Good times. Might have to build a tiny pink quarter midget race car now. We'll see. Mofo Driver's weekend was good. Drank a lot of beer. Word to that. Alt Praise is here and says, hi, everyone. What's the topic tonight? Have you ever seen this show before? There's never a topic. All right, sometimes there's a whatever, a theme, I guess. The theme tonight is the lazy sound engineer. I was working on some soundtrack music for the channel today. I don't know if it's any good, but I made it. Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary says, had my company's Christmas party, cleaned out my boss at the poker table. So pretty good. Hell yeah. My brother works for a local lube shop / diesel mechanic place now, and they had a Christmas gambling party. Except I think it was dice, something like that. Anyway, I guess he was doing well, and then he bet it all on black or whatever. Anyway. Hey, what are you doing? Dead Dodge Daughter's here. You want to tell the people about driving a tiny race car? No. All right. You want to tell the people how your weekend's going? No. Okay. Do you need something? Okay. Dan, where were you? And what were you buying? I have a shadow. I was just telling you probably don't want that. This bites. Yeah, no, it's got jalapeno in it. Yeah, too spicy. You don't want the spicy. I was just. Oh, yeah, that's true. You're getting braver with the spicy stuff, huh? Mm-hmm. Elma, for 79 Ram Charger stuff, were you right behind Whitney's Value Ford dealership? Right off of Schuweiler? Just curious, because there's a guy there that I know that has or had a couple Ram Chargers. Yes, you were getting peeked at, but she scooted away again. Dan found a Volare. Huh. Interesting. I don't know anything about it, which is weird. I know about most of the Mopars in this county. Is there some kind of like sports ball event going on or something? Because a lot of the regulars aren't here. Out in the woods. Interesting. Our house has just been a madhouse all weekend. We had 2 extra nephews, an extra niece part of the time, another extra niece a good bit of the time, and it's just crazy. They all run around in circles and scream, and that'll drive you to drink, I'll tell you what. So what is everything? Oh, damn it. What's everybody think of all the E-bodies on the channel? Am I the only one that thinks that B7 Blue Cuda is like the coolest thing ever? I'm not a Cuda guy, but I'm very much into that one. And I also gave a sneak peek of that red Challenger. That's going to be a 392 Hemi swap. 392 Hemi, 6-speed manual. It's going to be amazing. It's a really, really nice car. And funny enough, it came from Aberdeen. Figured that one out. My sister spent the time that her kids were with me drinking also. Well, excuse me. Good Lord. Good for you. I took your kids to a tiny racetrack and none of them died. So that worked out. All totally fine. I feel like there was something I wanted to talk about, but I don't know what it was. Oh, do I still have to remind people to hit like on the stream, or did they just do that now? I don't know. Incredible. No one cares about E-bodies. Got it. Yeah. I appreciate you not eating the preschooler. Funny enough, I was kicked in the balls by that one, and I strongly considered throwing him off the roof. Dan says Mrs. T likes the blue Cuda lots. That's amazing. It's just like the Demon, but an E-body and darker blue. And I very much like that. What do I need to remind you of? I'm so confused right now. Cudas? E-bodies? I showed this last time, right? Richard Petty. Plymouth Superbird. Kind of neat. Oh, liking the stream. Yeah, it does stuff. I don't know what it does, but it does stuff. I know what's missing. Noah. That's weird. Noah's always here. Smash the like button. Ah. So I had a random idea today. What was it? I'm just not all here. I don't know what's going on. It's been a weird weekend. Oh, yeah. I'm going to make a video about rebodies. or, tag jobs or whatever. I also might have to do one about all those auction cars that sold this weekend for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, did anybody see that a 344 speed Duster sold for $76,000? So what's my Demon worth? Don't know. Not coming to an auction near you. Hopefully pretty soon I'm going to get back to that car. I need to reseal the engine, rebuild the 4-speed. I have a spare 4-speed to put in it, so I guess I could just do that. So much to do. Still working on the Studebaker. Actually spent some time on that this week. Might have a video on it soon. Supercharged 4-speed Studebaker. Oh, 5-speed. Excuse me. 5-speed Studebaker. Amazing. 76,000. Wow. I know, it's crazy. I don't even know what to think. Remember when A-bodies were cheap and affordable and no one wanted them? And you could just get 5 of them for like, $500 to $800 each? I do. My sister says I'm experiencing what having a horde of children does to your brain. Well, I never want to do it again. No offense, your children are fine. It's when you put them together, that's when everything starts going bad. Rooster is here, and he says, "Howdy, dog duty." How you doing, Rooster? What's new? What are you working on? More plumbing problems? It was plumbing problems, right? I think it was. Hank Reardon is here and says, "I wish I was working on my Dart this weekend. Rewiring half my house." Damn. I kind of enjoy wiring, actually. I wired one of the lifts in the shop, and it hasn't caught on fire yet, so that's good. I've done light fixtures and things, but I definitely had a permit every time. Got to be legal. I didn't really do car stuff this weekend either. I hung out here in my clean clothes. We had nieces and nephews everywhere, and did go to a wee racetrack. So I'll have a video coming on that this week, I think. My daughter was really grumpy for all of it, but excuse me, she did really well. She didn't crash into anyone, unlike her cousin. Matthew B says, "I would love to see more trucks on the show. I had a 73 Country 100. I don't know what that means. It was an old Air Force truck. I'd like to see more trucks on the show too. I've got a video coming on a 78 W200 crew cab, 4-wheel drive power wagon. Super cool truck. We restored that at my old shop about 2 years ago. Yeah, I think we finished it about 2 years ago. Whew. Anyway, super cool truck. Just needs some things buttoned up. The dual fuel tanks are kind of weird. The transmission fill dipstick leaks really, really badly. And there's a slight coolant leak for some reason. So I'm going to be doing some stuff on that. And then I'm going to actually drive it for a little while. I might even take it off road. I really want to do that. You got to test it. And then it's going to be shipped to Arizona, where it'll live out the rest of its days, not rusting to pieces. But yeah, that's coming. I still have my 79 Stepside. No one has bought it. Don't know why. It's an awesome truck. A bunch of people have messaged me about it, but they're just all face tube flakes. So anyway, it's still here. So I may well have to do an engine swap in that. I want to, but I also have too many projects and I'm kind of broke. So it is what it is. I remember when 67 to 72 C10s were a dime a dozen. Wow. I don't. I remember when A-bodies were. I didn't really know the truck market at all back then. As far as I know, those things are gold, if they're short beds anyway. Pure gold. My sister says her children are chaos demons and she needed the break. Well, I'm happy to help. They spent most of the time just hanging out in Colin's room. Didn't really see him very much. Anyway, when I did see him, they were running around in circles. Rooster. Plumbing. Yeah, that's what I thought. Enderly blower hat to the Hemi. There you go. Nice. Al Bennett says, learn to drive on Brother's 7340 Duster. Nice. I learned to drive in a Dodge Stratus, and then a Toyota Corolla was my first like actual car. But the first like car that was mine that I bought that I drove was a 74 Duster. Just a slant six automatic, nothing special. But I love those things. So. Michael Hatfield asks, was that your Fury on the lift at Rocket on the latest video? No. That is Tom's Sport Fury GT. At least I think it's a GT. I still don't know C-Bodies all that well. But I'm getting there. I've been doing a lot of reading on the 70 and 71 Sport Fury GT. Super neat cars. I will be doing a video on those soon. Probably. There's a really, really good one hiding at Rocket in one of the buildings. I actually showed a clip of it once. But anyway, no, that one is not mine. I'm becoming tempted to do a 70 Sport Fury GT. They are cool, but they're also expensive and rare and hard to find. So I don't know, maybe one of these years. But the one I'm going to do is the 68 Sport Fury. It's out back. You may have seen the video on that, the green car, because my dad had one just like that. So yeah, that's something I want to do, but I am tempted by that 70, and it's pretty neat. Rooster says the Hemi deal fell apart. I was getting. Oh, he raised the price a bunch, is why I said nope. Gotcha. Went forward with the old motor. Yeah, you said what last weekend? I think that it was he was kind of beating around the bush or something. Well, damn them. Just keep on going. Oh, and you found out your motor came from my backyard. Well, how about that? I don't think there are many Hemis left around here. I haven't found any yet anyway. Alt Praise asks, has anyone bought parts from 440 Source? And if so, what kind of experience was it? Are the parts good quality or junk? I have not. I haven't had the chance yet. I will eventually. I've heard it's really good stuff. And prices are reasonable. But again, I haven't bought from them myself yet. So I do still have a crazy 60 over 440 that had a 6-pack bottom end that kind of exploded thanks to nitrous. I kind of still want to put that engine together. I've been putting it off for a long time, and I don't know if I ever will. But if I do, I think 440 Source heads would be the thing to do. But we'll see. Oh, yeah. This guy is live again? Yeah, every Sunday. Like clockwork. Kind of. Matthew B said, oh, it was a 73 Dodge. Okay, W100 4x4. Nice. Yeah, my very first truck, I was like almost militantly against trucks. I didn't understand why anyone wanted trucks. And I think that's because I grew up in a hick town and everyone had them. And they were the kinds of guys that would like throw buckets of mud on their 4x4s to make it look like they were hardcore wheelers, you know? So I was not a truck guy at all until my mid-20s, early mid-20s. I got a 75 W100 short bed, 318 automatic, and I loved that truck. It just could not be killed. It killed voltage regulators left and right. But yeah, it was awesome, and that made me a strong believer in Dodge trucks, and I've had many of them since then. Right now, I'm down to, I think, only 3 or 4. It's hard to tell. And it's difficult. It depends on how you count. Oh, no, I forgot about the swept line. So like 5.5. Oh, Ken wants to know, how's your mother-in-law's house? It's gone. We reduced it to a pile of rubble, packed it into dumpsters, ripped the foundation out, brought in 6 semi-loads of fill dirt and 3 semi-loads of 1.25 inch rock, crushed rock. built some RV pads. So yeah, it is gone. We're still not quite ready to put the RV out there. And they're going to get another trailer for the rest of the family too, because it's a little cramped in the one unit. Although it is really good size and it's got the 2 tip outs. But we've got to finish utilities out there. There's no water. There's no electrical still. So got a few things left to do, but the house is gone. The property is cleared and ready to go. So that's where we're at. It was nuts. It wasn't as much work and didn't take as long as we thought it would. They'd also actually been working their butts off out there, clearing it bit by bit, removing stuff. And anyway, so yeah, we pretty much got it taken care of in about 3.5 days. 10,000 pound mini excavator and 3 giant dumpsters. Easy. Hello, Robert in Blanchard, Oklahoma. How you doing there? Alan's Cars and Stuff asks, oh, by the way, if you're just jumping in, feel free to say hello. I see a bunch more people hopped in here. A little later than usual, similar to last week, I suppose. But feel free to say hello and ask me questions and comments. And if there's something you want to see me do a video on, let me know that. I'm taking suggestions. I got the suggestion box out. It's not that I've run out of ideas. I have a long list of ideas. It's just, is this practical right now? Can I do it quickly? Is it going to take me a month? That sort of thing. But yeah, feel free to say hello. Let me know what you're drinking if you're playing the Dead Dodge drinking game. And let me know what you're up to this weekend. Alan's Cars and Stuff asks, have you ever seen a 68 New Yorker 4-door with factory leather bucket seats and console? My friend has one that was sold new in Panama, and the owner's manual was written in Spanish. Interesting. No, I haven't. At least I don't think so. I've ridden around in one 68 Chrysler 4-door. Was it a New Yorker? I think it was a New Yorker, but I don't think it didn't have buckets. It had a bench. Neat. Al Bennett says that Duster 340 had a slapstick automatic. Interesting. I didn't think those came with those. I thought that was an E-body thing. Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary says, been driving the red F-150 I inherited. That's the 88 inline 6 EFI F-150. It's really fun to drive around, except the manual shifter has a case of every gear is neutral and fifth may as well not exist. Well, that's unfortunate. Little vague. Oh, Rooster. Funny story. The guy Rooster bought his Hemi from was in Olympia, Washington, and his name was Ben Snowbar. Did you know that where Rocket Restorations is now located and where I work, where I commute 3 days a week, is Ben Snowbar's old property? If you went out there and bought it, you probably went there. If you had it shipped to you, well, he probably shipped it from there. Yeah, if you see like all the videos I do there, at Rocket, that was his place. And that main building that we work in, that was where he kept all the good stuff. Viper was in there, the 0 mile. Oh, what year was it? Was it an 08 Challenger? Like the very first year? Don't remember. Of the new Challenger that was in there. There's all kinds of good stuff in there, and Hemis and all kinds of good stuff. And Tom that I work for ran the auction for the family after Ben passed away. So yeah, small world. I never got to meet him. I'd heard of him, and I've heard many stories since, But yeah, that's where we're at. It's actually, it's kind of south of Olympia, south of Tumwater, in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, figure that one out. Hank Reardon says stroker kit from 440 Source worked well. Awesome. I believe that's where we are getting ours. We're going to build a stroker engine. Really excited. I don't think it's going to be a 451 because we have to go, I guess our block for that Blue 73 Charger, the block wouldn't clean up at 30, and 30 thou over is the 451 with 440 crank, apparently. So I guess it's 457 or something. 42 thou over is the next bore size they have pistons for. But yeah, I think we're getting the kit from them. I think we're putting their heads on it, and it's gonna be nuts. I'm very much looking forward to that, because I really haven't done any like all out super chunky big block builds. I'm finishing up a 440 build right now. It's a long block currently. I have to finish the valve gear and then dress it the rest of the way and paint it. But that's just a stock 440. It's for a 70 Monaco wagon. So yeah, there will be a video on that as well. I will definitely do a video on building the stroker engine. But yeah, I believe that stuff is coming from 440 source. So I will have experience with their stuff soon enough. Michael Hatfield wants to know, any more thoughts on a Plymouth Gasser lately? Not really. I still want to do it, but I haven't actively gotten into it, really. The Plaza is still where it was. The poly engine I wanted to use with the dual quads is still where it was. So no, I haven't gotten anywhere on that. I'm super engrossed in Power Wagon, Barracuda project, and Demon really needs some of my attention. And that's on top of course, all the work that I have. So no, not yet. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I really do want to do it. So I haven't forgotten. Kimmy Trails says, the 1975 D300 Club Cab Sport Adventurer SE Dually just got some new pipes down at Quality Muffler. Now ready for the trip from Olympia to Aberdeen for a tune-up at Dead Dodge Garage. Ah, yes. That's a cool truck. It's a sweet blue extended cab dually. I didn't realize it has all of the option packages, I guess. It's a cool truck. Yeah, look forward to that on a video coming up. So there's another truck coming. Never fear, there will be more trucks. I'm looking forward to it. We got to figure out a good day to do that. If you were a little closer, you could just like drop it off with me for a couple days, but it is what it is. Yeah. Rooster. I guess this Ben guy was a car builder and drag racer out there. Yes, he had all kinds of cool stuff. And yes, he passed away a few years ago. D-Truth is here and says, hello, new sub. Hello, welcome to the thing. This is the Dead Dodge Garage Super Boring Sunday Streaming Special. Glad you're here. Feel free to ask any questions you may have, or tell us how your weekend's going. It's not all about me, Hank Reardon says, I'd love a video on a Magnum swap using factory EFI. Yes, I have been planning that for a year. It's going to happen. I've done 2 of them. I'd really like to do another one for video. I need to rewire the one that's in the van out there. So I might use that as the electrical guide for that project. But I really want to do a swap start to finish and document the whole project. That was my plan with the 79 D150 step side. And because it hasn't gone anywhere, I might still do it. But we'll see. Oh, and Kimmy Trails is drinking Incline Cider House Imperial Tart Cherry. Not too bad. Nice. I've only drank one of the Inclines. I think it was a dry apple. Is that what that's called? Don't remember. And it was fine. I don't think anywhere here has Incline. Maybe Safeway does. I don't know. I'm currently drinking the Wicked Cider Co. Bare Naked. It's what I would describe as an acquired taste, but I have acquired it. I thought it was awful at first, but they have it at the gas station right up the street. So it's that or Angry Orchards. I'll take this. They did have the baked apple. That was exciting. Oh, this is on the F-150. Pretty sure the shifter issue is the bushings haven't torn into it. I don't know what transmission you have in 88. I have a lot of experience with the Mazda transmission that they put in Rangers and 90s F-150s and some 250s, although it really wasn't up to the job. Excuse me. And they don't really have shifter problems. I'm guessing that's not what you have. Honcho's house is here and says, I saw a Sun O sticker on a wagon in an older video. Totally caught my ADHD the other day. Ever had one of those old powerhouses? Yes, I have. I had, oh shit. Which one did I have? Drew. I had a Sun Beta Lead. And it was fantastic. And sometimes I would use that as a head unit on top of my Trainer 412 cab. Super good. Drew had a head. I can't remember what model that is. A tube head, Sun tube head. But nope. I don't remember what the model is. But yeah, I've played with a few of theirs. I've played with their bass amps as well. Really good stuff. And the Beta Lead, of course, is a transistor amp. In spite of that, it's very, very good. You may or may not know there's a band named after that brand. So that it's actually the band's sticker. I have never listened to them and I know nothing about them. But Drew, my very good friend, owned that car for a while and he slapped the sticker on there. There's also a deteriorating Whitewood Funk sticker. That was our band. And I think there's a Crack House sticker on it too. That was his band that he started later. So yeah, that was a bandwagon for a long time. Now it's just living out its days as my wife's Sunny Day Cruiser. I've gotten several comments on that sticker, so kind of funny. Rooster says, I'll be damned. My buddy Brad Harms. That name sounds familiar. Bought it at the auction. Small world. Yep. Tom ran that auction. I believe he said the family made about $600,000 off of that auction. And then he bought the house and property from him. He also helped them kind of modernize the parts business that they have. They have reproduction parts and such, and kind of got them online. So I didn't know this. They're actually still running that business out of another place that's very nearby. I've never been there, but yeah. Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary says Stroker video will be awesome. Yes, it absolutely will. I am pretty excited to do it. Like I say, I'll be the first to tell you, like, high horsepower has never really been my thing. I learned when I was 20. How old was I? 23, I guess. When I got the 66 CUDA with an aluminum headed 360, 410, 4-speed, that I shouldn't have 400 horsepower. I'm a little more grown up and responsible now. I'm not planning on spinning the demon around backwards, but yeah, I got a lesson in that CUDA, Barracuda. And the lesson is I really don't need all that horsepower. So most of the engines I play with are stock or just, warmed over stock. That's kind of where I'm at. It's cheap, it's fun, it's easy, and the stakes are not very high. But yeah, I am excited to do some more high horsepower stuff and see what's what. I know I can do it. I've learned quite a bit about building spicy engines over the years, so I'd like to put that knowledge to use. That video is probably another, I'm going to say 2 months out. We don't have the engine parts yet. That project is actually, I'll be doing another update video on that Charger soon. It's been at paint and body for the last month, and they're getting really close to painting it. So we're going to go over and check out their hard work. But yeah, probably a couple months, I'll have a video out on a big block Mopar stroker. Very much looking forward to that. Honcho's house is drinking Wild Turkey 101 with a few ice cubes. Very good. I'm not. Cheers. Avon is here right on time as usual and says, guess who isn't at work this time? That's why you weren't here right on the dot, because you weren't getting paid for it. Oh, here's a good question. I'm going to do a video on this too, because I have all of them here now. Every version of 318, basically. Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary wants to know, what are the main differences between the LA and the Poly 318? The main difference is cylinder heads. The architecture, the lifters and lifter angle, the crank, basically, the timing cover and timing cover mounting, the oil pan mounting, the engine mounts on at least the last generation of Poly engines, all of that stuff is the same. The architecture is almost exactly the same. Where they differ is cylinder heads up. The poly, instead of having the 318 LAs in, why does that look wrong? There we go. Inline valves, they're canted at an angle like this, kind of like a big block Chevy. So because of that, the head has that funky zigzag shape to it. The ports are different. The exhaust ports are evenly spaced like a Ford, whereas on the LA engine, they kind of rearrange things and they're like that. So yeah, the heads are just totally different. They're taller, again, to account for the extra space for those valves. The intake bolt pattern's totally different. They're extra bolts, and they're on two different planes. Or not planes, I guess, but they're not all in a line like the LA. They're kind of staggered. Exhaust manifolds, again, totally different. But that's basically all where it's at, cylinder heads and up. If one were so inclined, one could essentially bolt poly heads onto an LA and the other way around. A side effect of that, the poly block is basically a DeSoto Hemi block. So if one were so inclined to do some machining and welding and science, one could put DeSoto Hemi heads on an LA. One would have problems with valve to piston clearance and push rod clearing the block, and it's this whole other thing. But the long and the short of it is they're very, very close relatives. But yeah, the main difference, cylinder heads. Now the LA, meaning light A, the block is also much lighter. I want to say it's 30 to 40 pounds. Maybe it's not that much. Maybe the whole engine's 40 pounds lighter. I can't remember, but they did lighten the block casting quite a bit when they went to the LA. The 273 was the first one, and then the 318 moved to that platform in 67. Hope that helps. But again, I will be doing a video on that. I'm going to compare Poly 318, LA 318, and Magnum 318 5.2. I've done one video on what the differences between the LA and the Magnum are, but I want to do another one and get the Poly in there. Also, I'm better at video now, so I'd like to redo it. Rooster asks, so did Ben build motors for all kinds of things? This motor was last used in a blown drag boat. I don't know. Again, I never knew him, and I've heard a little bit of, the man, the myth, the legend sort of thing. My coworker Trev almost bought a 66 Charger from him in the 80s, so he was in the game for quite a while. Maybe it was the early 90s. Still, but I don't know. I do not know. I can tell you he had the Shaker Hood reproduction stuff. He made that stuff. R. Hill is here, checking in from Georgia. Hello, R. Hill. How you doing? I'm about 10 minutes behind on comments, but feel free to keep them coming. Michael Hatfield says, drowning in projects. I can relate. Yeah. I've pretty much been drowning in projects since I got into Mopar world. I was 17 years old when that happened. And yeah, it just, it cured teenage angst for me. Having this to do and then this to do and then this to do. You don't have any time to stop and just like do nothing and be sad, projects and work and just having a goal and a purpose really helped me. So I have set myself up for failure like that ever since. There's just a never-ending list of things to work on around here. Customer jobs, mail trucks, house projects, shop projects, and then my stuff. So that's kind of what life is like around here. Someone had the audacity to call me lazy in the comments yesterday. What the fuck? Good evening, Stacy. How you doing? You're here. You made it. Oh, Lovejoy Shipbox Sanctuary says the F-150 does have the Mazda 5-speed. Interesting. I wasn't sure they had it that far back. But I don't know 80s Ford. I don't really know or want to know Ford super well at all. I think I told you I do really like the inline-six with the EFI. The 5-speed behind is perfect, good fuel economy. And in a 4x4 F-150 from the 90s, ideally with the aero nose and the newer dash, I very much like that truck. I really do. And it has the Mazda 5-speed. But interesting. Those ones, you can look at the top plate and they have like the 3 rod thing. And actually, if you don't know, leaks from there are very common. You go in and put new plugs in there. I've done that. But I don't know anything about the shifter bushings on them. Greg Loy. Stroked 400 or 440. 65 Plymouth Satellite. Streetable high 11s. Well, I think a 440 could get you there. The 400 is cool because it's more compact. And with the stroker, obviously, you get more inches because of the bore. The 450 one's awesome. A good forged crank high compression 440 is expensive too, so I don't know if it really wins on cost, but stroker kit's not cheap. Either of them with good aluminum heads is going to get you where you want to be, I think. That's a tough call. Either? I mean, the inch difference isn't very much. The 400's lighter because of the shorter deck. It's not a huge difference, and it's more compact, so you might actually be able to get to the spark plugs. Maybe. But a 440, then you can say you have a 440. So dealer's choice. I mean, yeah. Building the stroker is cool. It's kind of the way. It's what everybody's doing nowadays. One day I will do a 408 type build as well, stroke 360, but that's going to be a long time. Kimmy Trail says, the Sun Beta Lead 2/12 combo is a monster. Best transistor amp besides a Roland JC. I've never played with the JC, but I've heard they're very good. And everyone on the pedal boards group says they're a great pedal platform and they take pedals well. I know they're good, but I've never gotten to play with one. But yeah, the Sun Beta Lead is just flawless. Fantastic. Yep. Love boy. Love shit. Love boy. Love joy. Shit box. Sanctuary. In my opinion, why have more power than you can keep on the road? Exactly. Yeah, for a street car, I don't. That's not what I want. I'm not responsible enough, I don't think. Again, right around 450. It's too fast for me. But unless it's a drag car, again, it's kind of a different story if you're going to have traction. But yeah, that's, to me, I completely agree with you. I think Hellcats are silly. But, you know, not everyone feels that way. And there are definitely people out there who are less dumb than I am who can handle the horsepower, and, you know, more power to them. Yeah. Or because it's what I want and because I can. All the respect. You know, and again, cool. It's not for me. I don't need that much. You know, when a stockish 318 with like a 4-barrel and headers and a wee little cam can do all the burnouts you want and it's plenty fun on the street, you know, why 500 horsepower big block? That's my view. What up, Doc? Just sitting here thinking about how my Demon must be worth $70,000 because I saw one sell for that much at the Mecum this weekend. Rooster says, Brad Harms owns a big muscle car business in Viborg, South Dakota. He has my mom's Ram Charger funny car now. My 67 Coronet came from him, plus several others. Maybe you mentioned him, and that's why the name sounds familiar, but maybe it's kind of a big deal, and I've heard about him. I'm not totally sure. Will an LA 318 transmission bolt to a Poly? I picked up a Poly for $60, thinking about throwing it in my 64 Barracuda just to get it driving while I look for a Magnum donor. 2 things. Well, 3 things. Thing number 1, yes, the transmission will bolt right on. You'll have no balance issue. Everything's fine. Up till 61 or 2, can't remember. The Poly crank is, sorry, brain fart. I read a comment. I gotta not do that. Earlier cranks on Mopars stick out farther because they bolted directly to the torque converters. So early Hemi is like that. early poly is like that. They went away from that and added the flex plate, I believe, in 62. It's somewhere around there. If you have an earlier poly engine, it will not work. You'd have to use an earlier transmission. I don't know why the lighting's being weird. It keeps like going bright and dim. Maybe that'll help. Apologies if I gave you a seizure. Anyway, if it's the later poly out of, say, a 66 Coronet or a Charger, you're good to go. No problem. Bolts right in there. The engine mounts, again, as I just said, are also the same. It's just the top end that's different. Here's where you're going to have a problem. People call the poly the wide block, which is dumb. It's not the block that's wider. It's the overall engine. The different cylinder head design. On the LA, the valve cover's up here, right? It's kind of twisted and it's up this way. On the poly, it's 90 degrees to the crank and it's wider. It's down here. And the head in that area is taller. So valve cover plus head is like much bigger. So they're out here. Now, I was always told they don't fit in A-bodies, especially early A-bodies, and that's the reason the LA exists. It's lighter and it's, more compact. That's where the LA found its first home, was in the Valiant and the Barracuda, Dart, etc. I've since been told that it does fit. So, okay, it's heavy. It doesn't fit well, I'll say that. It may fit, your mileage may vary. But yeah, it's got to be the 62-ish to 66, 67 in Canada-ish poly 318. It will bolt up to your transmission just fine. If you do that and it fits okay, let me know. I'd like to know that. I've never tried it. Again, it's only been probably a month or 2 months since I was told, yes, it does fit. Here's a picture of one in there. Even if it fits in there, you're going to have a bad time reaching down to spark plugs, exhaust manifolds, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, people have put early Hemis in A-bodies too, so it might well work. Brewster says the poly block is wider V. No, it is not. The engine itself is taller because of, again, the cylinder head and the valve cover, but the block is exactly the same. And it's not, well, people don't call it a half a Hemi. They call it semi-Hemi because it's got that nice ring to it. And the reason for that is wedge engine, poly, Hemi. So it's in the middle. So it's a semi-Hemi. And they're cool engines. I mean, they have performance potential, but they just weren't really, they weren't used like that by Chrysler, except for very special cases. And yeah, with dual quads on them, they're cool as shit. Oh, the other thing about polys is, yeah, the bottom end's the same, but again, the top end's the same. Say you did that and you want to put a 4-barrel carb on it because muscle car. Okay, $800 for that intake. I mean, $500 for one is a deal. They're super tough to come by. So yeah, and headers aren't going to exist. Good luck on even fitting the stock manifolds, let alone a set of headers in your A-body. I just don't know. Yeah, actually, I wasn't even thinking about that. In the early car, driver's side manifold to steering column is going to be, I don't know if it'll work without like relocating the steering column. I don't know. Honcho's House says the Roland JC has the best chorus that yeah, ever. Brewster, you are right on the early engines, but not the late engines. The late engine is the same. And again, that's 60. I can't remember. I know 61 is still the longer crank. I'm not clear on 62. By 63, it is definitely the same as LA. You can take a 66 poly 318 forged crank and put it right in an LA engine. Crank's the same, rod's the same, basically. If it is the earlier engine, yes, that will not work. Crank's going to stick out too far. That won't fly. But the late poly engine will. Michael Adamo, what is up? Just normal Mopar stuff, mostly. Hanging out and talking shop and drinking beverages. Hey, 24, you out there? If you haven't popped up to say hello, feel free to do that. I'm still about 10 minutes behind on comments, but I will get to yours. I promise, probably. And if you haven't done it, like the stream for me. It does something. Oh, I do accept tips as well. I'll answer your question anyway, but I'll give you a longer-winded answer. How about that? I also do musical requests sometimes. Yep, we covered that. And again, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, we'll just jump down to this because I was just talking about it. Yes, you're exactly right. You're confusing it with the 354 Hemi. The polys in that time period, yes, exactly the same. It's only the 62-7 engines that are the same as an LA. But yeah, the earlier one, absolutely. Stuff's different. If you want to make a 354 Hemi work, an early Hemi work, you will need some kind of adapter. That will not bolt to an LA transmission. Dan says, I've been to snow bars long time ago. High school buddy has E and B bodies and would go up there for parts. Nice. Yeah. It's a pretty well-known place in the Mopar world. When he passed and the auction was happening, it was a big deal up here. And again, I didn't know him. And I remember after he died, people asking me if I was going to the auction or if I knew who he was, where his place was, if I'd ever been there. And I hadn't and I didn't. But, I am on the younger side and I haven't been around forever. So anyway, cool. That's where I'm at. He did have another place. I think it was right up the road. Again, I've never been there. And I'm not sure what year he was where. But yeah, I know where Rocket is at now was his latest property that he had his shop and stuff at. All right, hell's good. I'm a newer subscriber. Yeah, you were here last week or a couple weeks ago, right? And you've got a few Mopars. Yep, I know that. I can see that. YouTube thought I might like your channel. Well, maybe. I do appreciate you watching and subscribing. I'm about to hit 6,000 subscribers, which is a pretty big deal to me. I've got friends with channels, and I've passed all of them. So it's pretty cool. I appreciate you helping me get there. Thanks for hanging out. Glad you're here. Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary says, I unfortunately know a ton about that generation of Fords. I currently own 5. They're really cheap around here, so I used to pick them up for a couple hundred each and hoom them around until they broke. Nice. Yeah, that's cool. If I was a beater truck guy, well, I'd still be doing Dodges, I think. This will sound funny. When I was a kid, I picked up a copy of Auto Trader, and in that, was a crew cab diesel F350. It must have been an Aero nose 90s. I don't know if it was doing enough to be a Power Stroke or not, but it looked like that, dark blue. And I loved it. And I thought, I will own one of those someday. That is my perfect truck. My dad drove Dodge Vans. My dad kind of drove anything. He had a 68 Sport Fury. He also had a Pontiac Executive and different things. And then, yeah, Ford Vans were the last things he drove. So I have a certain love for those as well. 70s and 80s Econoline Vans. I know a good bit about Fords, unfortunately, but most of the ones I've had to work on were 90s, 2000s. So there you go. Go figure. Yeah. Okay, we did that. Awesome. Again, it might work, but you need to verify what your engine you have if you don't know that. Geek and Son is here and says, cool stuff on your channel. Thank you very much. I try to keep the cool to not cool ratio on the cooler end of things. I hope I'm keeping up to that exacting standard. Michael Adamo says, I can't just pick one. I just can't do it. Anyway, lazy? I can think of a million things you are. Lazy is not one of them. Yeah, it's funny. It was a comment on my toolbox video. And I've talked about this a little bit. My demographic, and not everyone in the lives meets this, Lots of my friends hang out and are on the channel, and they are not 100 years old. But the vast majority of my viewership is white males from 45 to 65 plus. And that's because they're the muscle car generation. Boomers. But anyway, that toolbox video has been reaching younger people, which is weird. And it actually has gotten a lot of views. So it's very interesting. I've had tons and tons of comments, almost all positive, and people sharing what kind of tools they like and that sort of thing. And lots of people who agree with the point of that video, which was you don't need to spend $100,000 on tools like I have. Go to Harbor Freight, go get Craftsman stuff. You'll be fine. But I did it, and here's what that's like. So anyway, but yeah, he commented and said, wow, no wonder your business closed. You're too lazy to have your tools warrantied out. Ship them out. It's not that big a deal. And clean up your shop. Dude, come on. Yeah. I shouldn't have wasted my breath on him, but I did go ahead and respond and say, let's see you work a normal job, repair a fleet of mail trucks out of your house, take normal customer jobs, maintain your own personal fleet, juggle all this other stuff, and oh yeah, have a family and run a YouTube channel of middling success. So anyway, I should just keep my mouth shut, smile and nod, because it's not worth the energy. But yeah, I don't really think I'm lazy either. It's a rare day that I don't put on grubby clothes and go out to the shop. Too much to do. Now I'm more than 10 minutes behind. Cough. Mustangs. Ugh, damn Mustang drivers. Yeah, I was probably a Mustang driver that left that comment. Yep. Dave says, got my socks and undies from last week registered to Barrett Jackson. Should bring top dollar. Did you see those not really vintage signs that sold for like thousands? Yeah. Greg Loy says, this is my favorite channel. Wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't know how I managed to be that, but I'm proud of it, and I appreciate you. Give me the warm and fuzzies. Matthew B. On the blue Cuda that was using automatic oiling on the underside of the car, going to get just new main seal and water pump, or is there a teardown coming its way? My coworker Evan said we should just pull this engine and reseal it because it kind of leaks from everywhere. The thing is, that wasn't really in the plan. That's not what it was in for. In fact, I actually got a few details wrong in that video. Whatever. I'll issue a correction in the next one when I'm rebuilding the 4-speed. But it wasn't a Midwest car, and it didn't actually come in for a clutch. But as soon as we saw that oil, we were like, this is getting a clutch, right? It came in because it was having shifting problems. Well, we think there might have been a shifter linkage issue, and that would be part of it. But it was grinding in second gear. So we're going to rebuild it, put synchros and bearings in it, and just kind of go through it. And I'm very excited to do that. I got to borrow the book from my brother. He's done it. I haven't. So I'm looking forward to that. I've had my hands in plenty of Mopar engines. I've had my hands in a couple of torque plates, but I've never done a 4-speed. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I've heard they're easy, but we'll see. Anyway, so it's in for the transmission stuff. We were going to do a couple things at the same time. The radiator that's in the car was modified. They flipped the inlet and outlet because it was the wrong radiator. There's a brand new reproduction, nice radiator to go in it. So we're doing that. We just happened to notice, hey, there's coolant on the oil pan, and hey, the water pump's bad. So we're doing that. And hey, there's oil everywhere. So I don't really know where it's going to go. I do not think it's going to be a teardown because the car's already been restored. And you saw it in the video. It's not like it's perfect, but it is restored. The engine looks pretty good from the top. So I don't think we'll be going that far into it. We'll probably do rear main. We might do oil pan. We have to do oil pan to do rear main. We'll do oil pan, rear main, clutch, rebuild the 4-speed, adjust shifter, radiator water pump fluids, and away we go. There might be a couple other things that I'm forgetting. Not sure. But there we go. Oh, one more note on that. Again, I'm not doing the work on that. I'm rebuilding the transmission. My coworker, Evan, is handling the repairs on the car. So I may or may not have like exhaustive video on that car. I might just point a camera at him, you know. He doesn't seem to mind too much. He's a character in and of himself. He should have a channel. But again, it's not my project, so I won't be doing like, not that I ever do play-by-play every little thing. You may not see a whole lot more on that car until 4-speed rebuild, car back together, and I'll do a test drive because I really, really want to. I like it a lot. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Avon says 10 minutes behind if you don't read the comments, 15 minutes behind if you do, and 20 minutes behind if my sister's here. Or worse. Good times. Yeah, Matthew. Automatic oiling for rust prevention, mind you. Yes, totally. Oh, yeah. So one of the things I said wrong in that video, I was misinformed. The owner of that car, who's apparently very cool, I haven't gotten to meet him yet, he also has an AAR. So that's neat. We may well see that one of these days. Anyway, I think that car was from the Midwest and was like a complete rebuild. The blue car is a California car. And there are a couple repairs, which I found, you know, it had little things, but it was not fully rebuilt like I was told. That was the customer's other CUDA. It's got a couple little patches, but the floors are like perfect original. And I was looking at the floors in the video going, if this was from the Midwest, these must have been done and they sure look good. Yeah, because they weren't ever done. But yeah, you know, Chrysler products are well known for the ultra rare self-lubricating chassis option. I said that in a video a long, long time ago. What was that? Oh. It was in my first wire second gens video. That was it. The automatic self-lubricating chassis was a very common optional extra. That was it. Dan says, yeah, that's what I was saying. The difficulty level with the 318 engine depends on the 318A engine depends on the year. Yeah. Okay, yes, you'll need to do that. You need the date off it because if it's a 61, it's going to be a long crank and you can't use it. And again, I know you're going to go Magnum eventually anyway. Maybe just do that. They're not expensive. I mean, I don't know about where you're at. Where I'm at, I can get a Magnum 5.2. I could probably get 5 of them tomorrow for $500 each. So there you go. That's cool. But yeah, if it's early, if it's 61 for sure, if it's 61, it's going to be the long crank and you can't use it. Huncho's house. Okay, not a music gear question. Ever had a 727 that slipped kind of bad into third gear and a bad adjustment didn't really help? Us post 71 AMC guys share the Chrysler transmission kinship. Yeah, I know that. I've seen them. In fact, I didn't know it was only 71 and up. I thought they bought them even earlier than that. Maybe they were like Bork Warner or something before then. Don't remember. Anyway, slips bad into third gear. There's no band adjustment for this third gear shift. I am not an automatic transmission expert. I've been in a couple of them, but I'm not an expert. And that symptom right offhand, the 2-3 shift slipping, is weird. So I'm not totally sure there. There's a diagnosis wheel. It was actually an original direct connection tool that someone turned into a website where you just click the buttons instead of having to spin the wheel. Check there for that symptom and see if they list any options. It's just during the shift. Third gear itself is fine. Third gear is direct drive, so it better be fine or you're going to have a bad time. If it's just during the shift, make sure your TV adjustment is correct. The throttle valve or whatever kick down adjustment is absolutely essential. If that's not right, you're going to have a bad time. Beyond that, nothing comes to mind. But yeah, check that diagnosis wheel and check your kickdown adjustment. Throttle cable, throttle valve, manual, whatever. You know what I mean. Dan says, yes, the first generation Hemi, approximately 5/8 inch for crankshaft overhang. Yeah, and aren't they 8-bolt too? I think they are. Yeah, I don't remember. I've only ever pulled one first generation Hemi. It's 331. Good running engine too. Anyway, but yeah, I know the crank sticks way out, and it's because they have bolts that go through or whatever to go to the torque converter. Bolts come in that way instead of threading into the crank. Now I'm thinking maybe there is a flex plate in there and it doesn't bolt straight to the torque converter. It's been a long time since I did that. I can't remember. And I've only ever done the one. Again, like it's not the sort of thing I mess with often. I just know the cranks are long and stupid. Greg Loy, pros and cons of going 5 or 6 speed in 65 satellite. Pro, it's awesome. Great highway cruising, especially if you get one of them 6 speeds with the double overdrives. Not that that's the only option, but it's a good one. Con, they don't fit. So you're going to be modifying the transmission cross member that's part of the floor. You're going to be probably cutting and widening the transmission hump. You're going to do some extensive work to make that fit. Also, the bolting cross member, not going to work. I believe US Car Tool makes one. Someone makes one that's deeper that will probably accommodate any one of those transmissions you would use. It's not just straight, I'm just going to bolt it in and away I go. It's a pretty major fabrication project to make one of those fit. Having said that, there's a 6-speed. Hold on, I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's a T56. I know Mopar transmissions. Everything outside of that, I'm kind of stupid. The red Challenger that I teased in the Blue Cuda video, I'm going to be doing a Hemi swap on that. It's getting an altercation K-frame. It's getting all the cool bells and whistles Hemi stuff. And it has a 6-speed in it now. I will be dropping the entire drivetrain, and I'm going to get a straight look at what they had to do to make that work. So I'm pretty excited to see that, and maybe you'll get an idea of what you'll have to do. Mind you, that's a Challenger, not your B-body. The engine spacing is different, but it's similar. So again, you'll see kind of what that takes. It's not just bolt in and go. The 4-speed is. The pass-on performance 5-speed is, but there's a huge stupid wait list to get one of those. So yeah, they make a really, really nice driving car. I would love to have a 5-speed in. I even considered it for the Demon, frankly, so I could kind of have street manners, but I am not going to cut the car up to do that. So that's what you're up against. It doesn't just fit. The transmission tunnel is small. The cross member's got to change, but it is super cool. Yep, early poly blocks used Hemi stuff. Yes, exactly. The Chrysler Poly is a Chrysler Hemi block with poly heads. The Wii Dodge Red Ram Poly is a Dodge Hemi block with poly heads. The DeSoto never got a poly engine, but the A engine is the DeSoto block with poly heads. And they used it in Plymouth, and then they used it in Dodges as well. Dan says cranking rods and 60 up polys, same as 273 LA length overhead on crank. 60 up. My 61 Dodge truck still had the early iron push button torque flight with no park, and it had the long crank. So maybe it's 60 up car engine has it, and 61 truck still has the long one. See, again, I'm not totally sure on that. I do not know. But yeah, not totally sure. Hey, I'm 20 minutes behind now. I'll try to catch up. Lobo Shitbox saying, why do I keep doing that? God damn it. Lovejoy, Shitbox, Sanctuary. It's not hard. It's not complicated. Says, don't worry, I dodged a bullet by not buying a Ford. I know. OBS Fords are good trucks. There's no denying that. They're good trucks. First gen Cummins and Dodge Rams are garbage, but they have great drivetrains. Well, they have great engines. He also says, I loved that tools video. Awesome. I have a lot of the same stuff you have in my box at work. I just have a 55-inch Matco 2S. It was cheap. Spend the money on the tools, not the container. Yeah, I was stupid. I didn't need the box I have. Shouldn't have done it. Michael says, yes, I knew. Stacy says, some of the prices at Mecum were absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That charger I did a video on 2 months ago now. That was nothing compared to what was going on this weekend. I haven't. It's like kid in a candy store. There are so many cars that sold for such ridiculous prices. Like, people have asked me to do more videos of that type, and I'd like to, but where do I start? They sold how many Daytonas, wing cars this weekend? Oh my God, where do I start? I don't know. But yeah, I might have to do something. I don't know. I'd like to do a video on the Duster that sold for almost $80,000 because I know quite a bit about A-bodies. Anyway, I digress. Lovejoy, Shitbox, Sanctuary. Yeah, I did it. Says, you're the only child. Fuck. You're the only channel I follow that I like enough to attend the lives. So that's something. That is something. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to have you here. Anyone that has questions to ask, that's what I need. People have asked me to do a podcast, and I'm very interested in that. But then I won't have anyone here asking me questions. What do I do? What do I say? Don't know. Greg Loy asked. I saw both comments pop up, so I'll just pick one. How's the family doing that lost their home in a fire? They're okay. They're still living here with us in our driveway, in that motorhome that we picked up for them. They bought it. But I went down to Salem with my mother-in-law and drove that beast back. So they're still here. We've got the remains of their house gone. The property is cleared, filled in the big hole, built a driveway with RV spots. We just have to get utilities done, and they'll be moving back out there. So they're doing all right. They are a little cramped in that one RV. It's big, but 2 adults, 3 sometimes, and 3 kids. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. So, but they're doing all right. Rooster says, rant well justified. I run a ranch. A shop for cars and one for boats. Then add home stuff and being a dad and grandpa. I'm lazy too. My shop's a mess. I bet he doesn't have a shop. Rooster, that's exactly what I said. I said, let's see you run a shop like I did, man. All you got to do is be the service writer, the receptionist, the accountant, the banker, of course, shop foreman, facilities management. You got to fix cars too. I'm sure you'll do great, buddy. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I have all the respect for people that, do this kind of stuff. It's nuts. It eats your life. And you guys know what I'm up to. I mean, I never stop. I do too much. I do way too much. And I do not spend enough time just relaxing in clean clothes at home with my family. I really don't. I'm just going all the time. So it's kind of who I am. And again, it keeps me going. It makes me tick. But yeah, my shop's messy. I got better shit to do than just clean it all day. And yeah, actually, since that video, I have cleaned a bunch more. But then I fixed more cars. I've had 7 or 8 mail trucks in since then. My lift is getting used like a rented mule. There's a Cadillac on it right now. Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You know where I'm at. Screw that guy. Stacy asks, thoughts on the Black Ghost Challenger going up for sale? I think the guy can't keep the car. I mean, either he needs the money or he just can't give it the care and feeding that it needs. I've seen the videos on it. That's a cool car, and it's an amazing story. Absolutely legendary. But the dude would not be selling his dad's legacy if he didn't have to or if he didn't feel he had to. So I understand it. I don't know if he needs money or, again, if he just can't keep the car, But what I'm not going to do is come out and laugh at him and insult him like some Mopar hosts on the internet have done that are based in Washington. I won't name any names. I think it's interesting and surprising. I want to say if that was my car, I would never do that. But when that car sells, it's going to secure his and probably his son. It's going to secure their financial independence. Like, which one of us doesn't want that? So, again, it's I can see both sides of it. I want to say I would never sell it, but I can't say that. A tiny little part of me, when I saw that a 344-speed Duster sold for $76,000 this weekend, tiny little part of me went, well, what's my original paint 344-speed 86,000-mile non-restored Demon worth then? Tiny little part. Just saying. Those are my thoughts. I understand it. It's a bummer to me. It's so cool that it stayed in the family this long, and it's so cool it got back on the street. It's an amazing story, but if he feels it's time for it to go, it is what it is. Lovejoy Shipbox Sanctuary. I have a Magnum 360 in a truck, but my dad likes to use it as a truck. And he's telling me it's too nice to tear apart. He's supposed to be buying a new truck, but I don't think he will. I understand. That's funny shit. Well, you can't take that one apart. But again, I don't know where you're at. Where I'm at, they are plentiful in junkyards. They're in Dakotas and Durangos. You know how many friggin' Durangos are in junkyards? So yeah, I could go get 4 or 5 of them right now. So I'm just saying, again, and I don't know where you're at. I know you're working on all these Fords. You got a lot of stuff going, but Magnum shouldn't be too hard to get your hands on. So just saying. Heck, put your Poly up for sale. Someone needs that for a late 50s, early 60s car or truck. So see if you can't get, $300 to $500 for it. Go buy yourself a Magnum. Magnum 5.2s are cheaper and you don't have the balance issue. So keep that in mind. Magnum 360 is more, but the horsepower difference isn't really that much. They got the same cylinder head, and it'll do cool stuff too. Of course, going in that Barracuda, I don't know what your plan is if you're doing EFI or if you're doing a carburetor. One way or another, you are still going to have to buy some extras to make that work. It's not as simple as just buying the engine. I shouldn't really say that, but it shouldn't be too hard to get your hands on one. Hey, 34 out there now. I'm only 10 minutes behind on comments. Might even get caught up. Don't know. 35. All right. Welcome. If you're just getting here, feel free to drop a comment. Tell us what you're up to this weekend. What kind of hot rod or Mustang you're working on. And let us know what you're drinking. And if you're playing the Dead Dodge Garage drinking game, which is you have to drink every time I misspeak or say something incorrect. It's brutal. Greg Loy wants to know, how do you keep your beard so tidy? I don't. It's a trick. The camera adds one decent beard. I'm a little better on it now. My personal hygiene skills kind of suck. I get up in the morning and I brush it. That's all I do. I just brush it. And I try to keep the mustache out of my mouth. That's about it. Sometimes it gets to this length and then it starts doing weird stuff like this, and there's nothing I can do about it. So that's about the time it's time to trim it off again. But I've been doing so well. I just can't bring myself to trim it off. But we'll see. D-Truth with a solid question. If any at all, thank you for starting that. Starting with that. See? It's brutal. The other thing I meant to do there was ask if you would please click like on my live stream, because it does stuff. The more people we get in here, the more party, I guess, until I get to the point that I'm a half hour behind on comments. Anyway, D-Truth asks, if any at all, what's the best year for Magnum 4.7? The answer is no. Okay. I've heard, I cannot confirm this personally, that the very last generation of the 4.7, the one that has dual plugs, I believe it started in 8-ish. I have heard that they are better, but I cannot confirm that. And I've never seen a good Force 7. I don't think it exists. They blow head gaskets. They start popping cooling system components left and right. They then rust out, cylinder walls. Then they use oil. Heads warp. Timing chain guides break sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. They're just all problem. Someone on one of the Mopar groups recently said, "Oh, why don't you put a 4.7 in that hot rod? Take the 3.9 out, put a 4.7 in." Everything is different. Everything is different. The entire electrical, the engine control system, everything, the transmission, the whole shooting match, it's different. I lit into that guy and I was like, why would you ever want to do that? That is a mistake. You could put a 5.2 or 5.9 right where that 3.9 was, easy, but not a 4.7. Anyway, no, I don't think there's a good one. The late ones might be okay, but you're not going to swap one of those into anything anyway. If you're looking for a truck powered by a 4.7, apparently those last few year ones are better. The newest one I've replaced was a 2006, and the only reason I had to do that was because the dude ran it out of coolant and drove it 3 miles off of a logging road overheating. That engine might have lived forever if that guy hadn't been dumb. So maybe those ones are even kind of better, but I doubt it. Hey, Olina. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Olina asks, Federal or Saginaw pump on your Mopar? My Dart has a Federal and I really like it. Been reading lately on people swapping due to Saginaw preference. Why? What's your take? Which power steering pump on my Mopar? No. Honestly, I don't think it matters. The Federal TRW Chrysler, that earlier design, they're fine. The only problems I've ever had with them, lines fail, which they fail on the Saginaw systems, exactly the same, and seals, but they're easy seals to do. The Saginaw is interesting. Parts are cheaper, I guess, more readily available, I guess. Saginaws are in everything. Like, still, they're used, well, not now. Power steering's gone the way of the Dodo. Hydraulic anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say I've seen people eliminating the early pump and going to the Saginaw pump. I don't know why. I don't know why you would do that. I would say use whichever one you have. I know of no specific reason why the Saginaw is better. I just know they started using them around, is it 69 or 70, something like that? And they are plentiful. They're used in everything. Yeah, I think the Federal's fine. I would leave it alone. If there's nothing wrong with it, leave it alone. Yeah, again, I haven't necessarily heard that. Yeah, Saginaws are everywhere. Ford pumps suck. You probably know that. They always make noise. I can't, dude. I can't. I must be a bad mechanic because I cannot get a Ford power steering system bled out to the point that it doesn't make noise. They just do that. All praise. Video idea. Putting a 440 in a Volare. That's an interesting idea. I think, yeah, the spool conversion mounts should put it right in there. I don't know where I'd get my hands on one. I'm more of a small engine, small car, big engine, big car sort of person. It's kind of how my thinking goes. Big block in that weak thing just sounds like a service nightmare. It could be on the level as the Cheap Thrills Dart, where, big engine, crappy small car, junkyard stuff, cheap. I could see that, but it's also been done. If I'm going to put my 440 in anything, it's either going to be a B body or a C body, I think. I also don't know where I'd get my hands on a Volare. But it's an interesting thought. Last week we were talking about putting them in K cars or Corollas. If I find a Volare, I'll keep it in mind. But don't take that one to the bank. There was a Volare local to me. Don't know if it's still there. It was being eaten by bushes 9 years ago, I think. But it supposedly had a 340 in it, and that would have been cool. But again, I would have left the 340. Rooster says 354 Hemi uses the same heads as 392 Hemi. Now here's the not fun part. Long crank at 354. Early racers snapped cranks and people lost legs. 392s had shorter cranks. I didn't know that. And also, the heads, I don't think are the same. Because I think the 392 head is shorter because the deck is taller. Didn't they shorten the head a little? It's the same architecture and everything. For some reason, why am I thinking that? I think the heads are actually different. And one has a water port on the front and one doesn't. I could be wrong. Again, I'm no, early Hemi expert by any means. Honcho's House, thanks for the 727 advice. Check out the diagnosis thingy. TV linkage is where it should be. Perplexes me. Everything is perfect besides the 2-3 shift. It's fine. Yeah, check out the diagnosis wheel. It's like the Max Wedge specific. It was the Max Wedge torque flight diagnosis wheel, but because they're the same transmission, it applies to everything. Lovejoy, it's fine if it makes your life easier. Yeah, it will. But and I almost shortened it to that. But it's really fun to say Lovejoy Shitbox Sanctuary. I'm just bad at it. Oh, have you been working on any videos? Find any time to do that? Hunter's House. Yes, AMC used Borg Warner pre-72, and all the manuals were Borg Warners until the end. That's what I thought. Shit. I don't remember what year that Jeep truck was. I think it had a torque flight, though. Not totally sure. Can't remember. It's been a while. Lovejoy says, I used to just lurk. I think last week's the first time I've commented on one of your lives, but they're very educational. Well, I hope so. I hope they're not a waste of anyone's time. But it is what it is, Agent Orange commented and said, janitor, you forgot janitor. Yeah, that's what I meant by facilities maintenance. Actually, toward the end, one of the things we wasted our money on was hiring a janitor. He was a good guy. He meant well. I guess I shouldn't say wasted. He did a nice job. It's just like he was, I want to say literally, not quite literally, polishing the brass on the Titanic. I mean, we had this horrible ruined linoleum in our entryway, and he was like polishing that every week. And it's like, dude, stop. Just stop. Anyway. But yeah, I cleaned the shop area. He just did the forward front human facing part of the operation. Fired the janitor. He drinks beer on a YouTube channel when he can't talk. And the more he drinks, the more he can't talk. Lovejoy's in the middle of Nebraska. I don't know how to say this. You commented on a video, or maybe it's thumbs up. I can't remember. And that must have been this morning. And I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce that. Castorari? C-Store, Rhode Island? C-Store, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, says we're all just caretakers. That's exactly how I see myself. Exactly. And I've said that in videos. The Demon, my 340 4-speed 2-owner Demon, I'm the second owner. I call it Dale's Demon. He bought the car new. He ordered it how he wanted it. He used it how he wanted. He took care of it for 51 years, and then he sold it to me. And I'll have to have it for a long time before I could really see it as mine. I own it. I take care of it. I maintain it. I store it, and I do drive and enjoy it. But I really do see myself as the caretaker. And okay, like this Cadillac I just sold to my friend. I've been that car's caretaker for years. When it wasn't mine, and then when it was, I was just the caretaker. It wasn't really my car. I was just in charge of the care and feeding of the car. So yeah, that's how I see this. And I try to, I don't know. It's not that I've said this in videos too. In my Charger video specifically, I was like, who am I keeping the miles off for? This is my car. But maybe someday it won't be. And I respect the car to the point that I want to do right by it, whether it's mine or not. So I don't know, maybe it's just a perspective thing, but I completely agree with you. Stacy says, I'm going to wager a guess and say Black Ghost goes for minimum 1 million. Saw a comment that car needs a concourse restoration. That commenter is an idiot. Dude, yeah, seriously. I would never restore my demon because of the history and the story and the originality. The Black Ghost, seriously? Has he seen it? No, that's ridiculous. As far as price estimate, I'm thinking the same. It's a one-of-a-kind car. It's an absolute legend. It's an extremely unique story. There is no other car like that one anywhere. That's something special. So, I don't know. I know it's going to be a lot. It is going to be a lot. And all I'll say is hopefully the next guy takes good care of it. And if he spends that kind of money, I think he probably will. But what I mean by take care of isn't hermetically seal it, put it in a, storage building. Take care of it, keep it running, and enjoy it a little bit. Preserve it, but enjoy it and drive it, because that's what they're meant to do. Rooster says, remember, next time you get pulled over and the cop asks to see your license, ask if you can shoot his gun. That's a fair trade. Cave Dave, 65 Plymouth Satellite right now. Awesome. I assume that was in response to the what are you working on this weekend question. Super cool. There's someone else with a 65 in the comments. Lovejoy says, I'm wanting to keep the EFI and the CUDA, make it a daily, keep the 4-speed, and just enjoy it. I remember now. Yeah. Oh, man. I got to get my brain checked or something. Yeah. And I told you, I don't know if you'll fit an air cleaner under that hood, and I really don't. Let me know if you can, because I'd like to know that. Okay, here's why I think this. I've done EFI Magnum in my Charger, and in that I used a cold air setup off the shelf at O'Reilly. I just kind of built one, and it worked fine. It's technically hot air, but yeah. In the van, it's a van, so there's plenty of room for the factory air cleaner. In an A-body, one time I had a Magnum intake manifold, and it was an LA engine, but I thought, I wonder if this works, because my friend Chris is a huge Dakota nerd and a Magnum nerd. He's kind of what got me into him. So I took the Magnum kegger, and I set it on that LA engine. Now, mind you, this is in a 73 Dart on spool mounts, and I think they sit up higher. I can't confirm that 100%, but it appears to me they sit up higher. And in that car, I had the hood cut out for a tunnel ram. So I closed the hood, and I could see there was like no room there for air cleaner. So I just know that could be a problem. But, if you're willing to put a bubble in the hood or whatever, you're good to go. Yeah, cool. That will be very cool. The just factory EFI Magnum 360 with the 4-speed in my 66 Charger was amazing. Great fun. It was awesome. So I highly recommend it. Michael Adamo says, as far as the Black Ghost goes, he picked the right time to sell it. Yes, because of that duster, among other things. I mean, it's not just the duster, it's everything. Basically, everything is going top dollar right now. I don't know. The economy's kind of turned around. Things have gotten different. And you could tell the writing's on the wall, and all of those big-time collectors were like, well, it's time to sell. We know it's time to sell, and we're selling, and we'll see you in Kissimmee. It's time to sell. And so, he's in the same group. And the thing is, I had the same thought just the other day. I was like, I might be missing the boat here. I paid top dollar for my Charger, and this might be the time to get it back. But I can't do it. I love it, and it's not really about the money to me. Unless shit goes super sideways, it stays. But, I think right now is probably the high watermark for these cars. I don't really think they could keep getting higher and higher and crazier. I think the market will rebound, and then it'll go back up eventually. But that's what I see happening. I don't know for sure. Greg Lloyd, pros and cons of aftermarket front and rear suspension on early B-body. I'm going to go with the cons first, because the thing is, the factory suspension works really well. And if yours doesn't, I don't know where you're at with your project. I don't know if this is a car you've even driven. I know you were talking about some cool drivetrain modification, so I assume this is a big long-term type project. The factory suspension is really good. And if yours isn't, fix it. Rebuild the front end, upgrade the torsion bars, sway bars. You probably don't have any. Add some. They work fantastic. And if the car still feels a little wet noodly, add subframe connectors, do the reinforcement kits. That's cool stuff. But the factory suspension, of all the things, you're not stuck with the stupid coil springs that the GM and the Ford guys have. You have an adjustable height, adjustable, tension, preload, resistance by changing bars, a really good front suspension right now. And again, I don't know if this is a car you've driven, but if you don't like it or if it doesn't work well, you can fix that. It's highly tunable. I have driven some really nicely set up torsion bar factory suspension cars. Good torsion bars, the offset control arms do wonders. The tubular A-arms, I should say, or offset bushing, same thing, to fix the alignment specs. And yeah, sway bars front and rear. Oh my God, they handle great. No one, short of pro-level autocross guys, you don't need to cut the car up to put coilovers in. So that's my vote. And I'm happy to say, I mentioned the altercation. This might be why you asked about this, not sure. We're doing an altercation K-frame in that Challenger to mount the Hemi. It's the easiest way to mount the Hemi, basically, or at least it was, when Hemi swaps first started being a thing. And it's lightweight and it's small. So there's lots of space for headers and things. But it retains the factory suspension. All of the factory suspension goes right onto that K-member. Now, they have another version that's all, coilovers and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff's bad. It can work really well. People do 4-links for better axle control. Yeah, it can work really well. But the factory asymmetrical leafs set up correctly, if you're hard launching, dude, people have been doing it for 60 years. So the stock stuff can work very, very well. So pros there, it works already, and it's cheap because you already have it. Yes, you might spend some money to, upgrade those components I mentioned, but it's a great architecture now. Pros of the aftermarket stuff, obviously, super nice, brand new, just comes in a box and you bolt it on the car. The adjustability, yes, with coilovers, you can adjust not only ride height, but spring rate. Excuse me. So if that's something you really need to do, great. I don't know what that is. Maybe a frog. If you're going to put a new Hemi or something wacky like that in there, you bolt that altercation in at the same time and you can get that aftermarket setup and it will work very well. It bothers me to see people ripping off the factory stuff. The cars work great. I mean, even the Bodie ones, stock, they're nice riding and driving cars. So that's my vote. That's what I've got to say as far as pros and cons. I really like factory stuff. It's cheap and it works, but your mileage may vary on that. R. Hill says, oh, I didn't know we were calling out booze. Well, you don't have to. Just like this whole thing, it's optional. Voluntary. Vodka and soda water for me tonight. I find it very funny that I fit exactly in the middle of your demographic. Yeah. It's funny. When I started this, I thought my sense of humor and my callbacks to shows made in the 2000s would land with my generation. But my videos don't because of the subject matter. But it's where I've gotten the most traction. No one watches my Corolla videos. No one watches my off-roading videos. No one watches my Ford videos. People watch my vintage Mopar videos. And because that's what I love, and that's what I'm doing all the time anyway, that's kind of just what I've ended up sticking with. And it gets the views and it works. So I'm not trying to mess with a good thing. I will occasionally put out a dud of a Corolla video because I want to do what I want to do. But for the most part, It's Mopars. And for the most part, it's older white gentlemen that watch. That's fine. They're the ones that have all the money, and AdSense knows that. So your advertising dollars are worth more than some. So it is what it is. It's just a fact. Not a complaint, an observation. I wish more younger people would watch because I want to spread the love of these cars in this hobby to them. But, I can't change that overnight. Rooster says, if I drink enough, I clown around. We all swim down here. The screaming goats usually happen when I'm sober, too. Canadian Big Mac, good evening. Good to see you. Says, as for the 4.7 liter, I had a 2004 Dakota quad cab, rear-wheel drive, Patriot Blue. Drove that thing for 12 years. It had 250,000 miles on it, and it ran like a dream. Yeah, here's the thing, Big Mac. There are a lot of them out there. There really are. I talk shit about the 4.7 because I'm judging them by the standard of the 5.2 and the 5.9. I'm judging them as if they're a hammer, like old pushrod V8s, and they're not. They're not a hammer. They're like, well, they're not a fucking sewing machine. What are they? I don't know. The point is, I've had so many problems with them. I've seen so many blown up. I've read so many people online asking how to put a 5.2 or 5.9 where their 4.7 was, which you really can't. I was a mechanic. I get the broken ones. I don't get the still good ones. And when 4.7s break, they break, partner. And they're tough to fix. I mean, head job is way harder to do. Everything's just dumb. Everything's dumb. And everything's expensive. If they overheat, they warp the heads, you're pretty much just as well putting an engine in it. And then you're $6,000. So, whereas the 5.2 or 5.9, I can go to the junkyard and buy 5 of them. There is no such thing as a good 4.7 from the junkyard. If there was, I've asked, it's $4,000, $3,000 to $4,000, same as a Hemi, to get a good 4.7 shipped from another junkyard around the country. There are none locally. So I have heard of many, not many. I've heard of a handful like yours, 200,000 plus, no problems. And that is absolutely a thing that happens. I totally believe you. I know it's true. My friend had one just like yours, but 4-wheel drive, and it was purple, and it was 240,000. No problem. All original. He knew the family. The transmission was slowly failing, but the engine was fine. It happens, but I think it's the exception, not the rule. So just saying, I don't want to put a X on your truck or anything, but I guess you don't have it anymore. But that's all I have to say about that. Lovejoy says, should have a video out this week. Awesome. And my very good friend Fitz, who is working on graphic designs for my channel, for shirts and hats. It's coming soon, friends. Says, maybe I like to waste my time. Well, maybe I do too, and that's why we're here. Dan says, yeah, 392 blocks are a half-inch taller. I knew it was something like that. For some reason, I thought the heads were different. Maybe it's 331 to 354. The heads are different. And then 354 and 392 share them. And that's what Rooster was saying. I know 354 was that weird one in the middle. I know a good bit about 331s because they cost less. I knew 392s were taller. Canadian Big Mac says, all I ever did for that 4.7 was change the oil, use a bottle of Lucas engine treatment, and plugs and wires. Ran so well. Sadly, a semi-truck driver ran a red light and totaled it. Oh, that sucks. That just happened here in town. It wasn't a Dakota. I think it was an F-150. But like 4 days ago, a semi T-boned a pickup. Crazy stuff. Yeah, Lucas. That's what did it. It was the Lucas. Now, usually, in my experience, what happens is they start losing coolant and then they start overheating. And as soon as they overheat, bad stuff starts happening. Dan Tupper, yeah, 331 and 354 heads. Same blocks. Yeah, same deck height. Yep. Bigfoots and Mopars says to Rooster that he's the caretaker of the Jack Pine Savage 67 RT. Oh, yeah. I hopped on your channel the other day. You commented on something about all the Coronets are over here. So I hopped on your channel and I saw that car. That's awesome. That is super cool. Neat project. Oh, my good friend Mike Miskey is here. And he says, would you elaborate a little for us that don't know much about the Black Ghost? Sorry for the ignorance, but what is it? The Black Ghost, hold on. I'll pull up a picture of it. It's a Challenger. Black Ghost Challenger. Price. Yeah, see, everyone on the internet wants to know how much it's going to sell for. The number one result is price. What's it worth? How much is it going to sell for? It's so funny. Hold on. Okay. Here's a good picture. Of course, pictures don't really show up on my camera very well, but we'll try. Anyway, Mike, it's the kind of thing that hardcore nut job Mopar guys living the lifestyle know all about, because it was a legend in Detroit and it was found a couple of years ago. And so then there were videos and stuff and there were big announcements. We found the Black Ghost and all that. Anyway, that is the Black Ghost. It's a black 70 Hemi Challenger. It's super cool. It is original and unrestored. The gentleman that owned it was a police officer. He bought that car brand new. He worked the beat during the day and at night, not all the time, but occasionally, nights and weekends, he would come out in that car and just stomp people and then disappear. No one knew who he was. No one knew where the car was. And so it was just this big legend that really built up over decades because no one knew where it was and everyone remembered it. So they called it the Black Ghost. And it just turned up again. I can't remember exactly when, but a couple years ago. But yeah, that's the Black Ghost. It is cool and it's one of a kind and it is going to be very expensive. Yeah. Dan says they did the opposite on the Hemis, the opposite of the BRB setup, and they used one intake manifold dimension. That's why they're different, because the deck height changed, just moved up, but they changed. That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah. So the heads are different for that reason. And I also think the 392 head has the water port on the front, right? Or is it the smaller engines, the low deck engines that have the water port on the front? I cannot remember, but I know one of them does and one of them doesn't. Yeah, Bigfoot's your butt. I knew you guys last week were talking about who had all the Coronets. or is that a Bigfoot, buddy, guy? How's that Coronet doing? If you needed to go somewhere, I'll help you out. Yep, Dan says there's more material on the intake face. So there's one Hemi intake, and it fits the high deck and the low deck, unlike the B and RB. I am 14 minutes behind on comments. I'll definitely get through all of these. If you have any other great questions, feel free to ask them. Let me know what kind of cool stuff you're working on. I'll probably hang out another 10 minutes, and then I got steak dinner, so I won't be here late this evening. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, Honcho's House says, here's where it gets weird. Full-size Jeep trucks used Turbo 400s until about 1980. A carryover from the Kaiser years, Jeep kept the TH400 after switching back to AMC from Buick engines in 70-ish. That's interesting. Okay, fun fact. Since you seem to be an AMC guy, you know the stuff. Do you know that the four-cylinder 2.5 is 2.5, right? That they put in Cherokees and that sort of thing, that four-cylinder engine, despite being based on the architecture of the inline six, the AMC engine, 258, or the 232, whichever, despite being based on that same architecture and looking exactly the same, it does not use the same bell housing pattern. It uses a Chevy bell housing pattern because it was used to replace the 2.8 liter V6 in Comanches and Cherokees, which sucked absolute balls, but they were buying transmissions from GM as well, or buying transmissions that matched the GM engine, and they had a surplus of those, or they had a good line, whatever, on those, so they were still coming. So instead of using the transmissions for the AMC engine, they made that engine fit that GM bell housing. Weird shit. Learned that recently. So if you want to swap one of those four cylinders to a six cylinder, it's not as easy as just changing the engine, even though they look the same. Yeah, I think I knew that some Jeeps had the TH400. I might have known it one time. You know, AMC Jeep were poor. You know this. They just used whatever they could get from other places, and it's just all weird. It's like, here's a Ford ignition system or something like a Ford ignition system and a GM starter. Oh, that's backwards. Ford starter, GM alter. I can't remember. The point is they use stuff from everybody. Motorcraft carburetors too. That Jeep truck I did had one of those. Yeah, then of course 727s, 80ish and up. They even had a lockup 727, 81 to 82. Weird stuff happened the more you dig. Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of Studebaker a lot, where they had to get this and source this and that because they were small. They couldn't just make their own stuff. Rooster says he's the Undertaker for a 72 440 Roadrunner and that 70 RT 440 six-pack Charger. Oh, hell yeah. I'll be buried with those cars. Had them 42 years. Thus, the Undertaker. I just want to know how you're going to be buried in both of them. Maybe your family can get creative on that one. Oh, this is interesting. Again, I'm not a big Jeep guy. I know some, but I don't know a ton. Honcho's House says my system for big Jeeps usually is round headlights, GM transmission, square headlights, 727. Huh! That's very interesting. Dan says this is why 354, 555 heads are preferred for the mechanical fuel injection. The port extension reduces airflow. So many 392s are blown, it doesn't matter, right? Because boost accounts for bad ports and all kinds of other things. But yeah, that makes sense. Yep, and it doesn't matter because the port pattern is the same. It's just further out. So neat. Very cool. I did not know that. Bigfoots and Mopars says my friend Gary built a blown 392 powered Henry J. Gasser. Got some pictures in my last video. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Henry J's are cool. There's an older gentleman. I honestly don't know if he's still winning with us, but there was an older gentleman that daily drove a Henry J, and he said he had a second one somewhere too. Kind of neat. I didn't get to drive it, but I think I sat in it. That was a while ago. Dan says, yes, this is why the same intake manifolds fit. Yep. Very interesting. Greg Loy, yes, you bet. You know, my opinion is just that, as is everyone else's, so take it as you will, or don't. But that's how I feel about him. Rooster says, my buddy Ken and I restored Bill Sullivan's Pandemonium Cuda, and that was a 392 Hemi, blown alcohol motor. Fun stuff. Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah. The sum total of my early Hemi experience is I had a 55 Chrysler New Yorker Deluxe. They were all New Yorker Deluxe. It looked like $100 million. And I got it running. It ticked a little bit, but it did run on, I think, all of the cylinders. 331, 55, of course. Short bell, though, and power flight. And I drove it around the block with just a handbrake. I ran it a few times, and then I pulled the engine out because the deal was I had to give it to the owner. He gave me the car. He just wanted the Hemi to build a hot rod. And I pulled it out, and I still had it. He fell off a ladder, had a realization that he would never build that hot rod, and decided to sell the engine. And he sold it to the competition. And I was not allowed to buy it, which was a real bummer because I wanted to put that car back together. All everyone ever does with those cars is rip the Hemis out. So I wanted to save the car. It's kind of who I am as a person. But anyway, that's all I've gotten to mess with. That 331. I'd love to do more early Hemi stuff. Someday that will happen. Rooster says, we did lots of 392 blown motors with 354 heads. Yeah, the early ones had a water pump flange. When they changed the blocks, the heads were the same. Well, Dan says the intake was different, though, because, the spacing, because the block's taller on a 392. Again, I'm no expert. Honcho's House says, just hit 30. Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm 32, so you are in my demographic. Very cool. Just hit 30. Already feel an urgent sense of what's the point of all this stuff that we do if it's just going to die with us. Teach the youngins. Be the inspiration and role models that we looked up to. Yeah, I'm actually trying to do one better than that. I'm trying to be a lot better than the role models I looked up to. I'm proud of what I've managed to do. And I do hope to influence more youngins. It's not all old people that play with these things, but it is primarily older people. T's Good Times Garage is here and says, hey, gang, good evening. Good evening to you, T. What is that? That's a dart. 60. I can't tell. 69 with that reverse light? I can't see the marker. I'm going to guess that's a 69 dart. Either way, it's a good one. Greg Loy says 8 3/4 or Dana 60. 500 horsepower, 5-speed B-body. We were just having this conversation on that Challenger we're doing. You said you're basically just driving on the street, right? If you're street driving, 8 3/4 is probably fine for around that mark. Any more than that? Any hard launches with sticky tires? The 8 3/4 is not going to enjoy that. You could try and brace it. Pinion snubber is absolutely necessary for the 8 3/4 launching like that. And it may live for a while, but if you're going to try and drag race it seriously, probably want the Dana. Manual transmission, hard launches, sticky tires, Dana. Normal driver, 8 3/4 is fine. Again, you're making the power, but you're going to do big smoky burnouts all day and have a party. You're never going to, have enough traction on the street to snap that thing. 8 3/4 are tough, but they're not insane. So yeah, again, hard launches, that's where you're going to start running into problems. I've made a 7 1/4 live in a dart behind a not super, a relatively rowdy 360. 904 transmission, 7 1/4 axle. Burnouts for days. Humongous party. No traction. If it had had traction, that stuff would have broken immediately. So anyway, that is the decider right there. Your stock 8 3/4 will get you a ways, but it will not get you hard launches, wheelie popping, sidestep in the clutch, 5,000 RPM down the drag strip. It's not going to survive that. Michael Adama says, price might be for the special edition. Dodge is releasing a new version. Oh yeah, I saw that displayed with the actual car, but I don't think that's what they meant. It seemed like they wanted to know what the actual Black Ghost is worth. Canadian Big Mac. My father, God bless him, taught me to change my oil every 5,000. Bought a Lucas, plugs and wires. Basic maintenance. Sadly, these days, those things are not taught the way they used to be. And sadly, some people, like myself, know what needs to be done, but ignore it anyway. It's all about knowing what you can get away with. No one should ever have to own any of my daily drivers. I haven't even changed the oil in my Cummins yet, and I've had it for a year. Jeep, just enough pieces. Yeah, just barely. Just barely. But anyway, Big Mac, good on you. Tin Grill Dodge Trucks. Dang, I'm late. I got busy watching JYD Dodge Ram Truck video. Non-Dodge working on Dodges is mildly painful. Yeah, when I watch non-Mopar channels working on Chrysler products, I'm just like yelling at the screen, it's the ballast resistor, or it's just dumb shit like that. I don't know JYD. Junkyard Digs. Yeah. I've never really watched him much either. Just a couple. I need a ramp truck in a bad way. It's going to happen. Might have to build it myself. Not sure. I got just a couple of minutes left here, folks. I'm going to try and get through all these comments. Mofo Driver says, Willys. Yes. Willis, actually. 331s did not have the water port. 354s did, like 392s. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I didn't think mine did. And I know on some of those you can retrofit a Chevy water pump for whatever reason. Mofo Driver. Bigfoots! It's good stuff. Lovejoy says, my favorite part about not owning a Brat anymore is that I still get phone calls from guys with technical questions. Just got off one of those calls. Did I miss anything? I'm sure you did, but I can't say what. I don't know how long you were gone. Yeah. I get a ton of my time is spent responding to messages, comments and post on Facebook with Mopar questions. And I'm not saying I know everything. I don't. I'm not a professional, but I know a lot. And I've made a lot of mistakes over the years to get to the point that I'm at. So I do spend a lot of time giving especially electrical advice. I know the Mopar electrical systems very well because they're all bad. Canadian Big Mac asks, Dead Dodge Garage. Canadian Big Mac. Have you ever driven the 2005 Magnum 5.7 liter V8? That thing can do wheelie stock. Does it really do wheelies or does it just lurch and do this, shift the weight like my van does? Because my van with the 4-speed, like it feels like you're flying, but you're really not. I have driven one of those Magnums. Yes, it was, the owner made me drive it. He was a Mopar nut too. He made me drive it. It was very fun. I really liked it. All of the newer Mopars I've driven with 5.7s were not slow. They're cool. Oh, T says that's a 67. Are the reverse lights in the... Are those 67 taillights? It might be a trick of the light because the 67 is just the red open square. Either way, it's still cool. Honcho's House says, great show. Gotta go. See you next time, party people. See you, Honcho. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. Have a good evening and a good week. We're winding down here. I'm at the last few things. Our Hill says good night all, enjoying the live, but I'm East Coast and old. Monday morning beckons. We're about to get out of here anyway. Thanks for hanging out. And I imagine we'll see you next week. Mike Miskey says, Jamie, you have a brilliant automotive mind. Well, I like to think so. I appreciate your help whenever I have questions. Thank you for your patience and time. Yeah, you bet. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to be that person. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. I think I could have done anything with my life, but I set myself on cars because I love them and just really wrap my head around them. So I'm happy to help as much as I can and pass on what I've learned the hard way. Rooster says, as for the Black Ghost value, there was a local guy that offered $3 million and got turned down. We'll see where it goes. Rooster will email me this week with the Blown Hemi updates. Sounds good. JK says, what state are you located in? I am in Washington State, Grace Harbor County, Aberdeen, Washington to be specific. I can smell the muddy banks of the Wishkah from here. I'm very near to the Kurt Cobain Memorial Park. Canadian Big Mac says, I've lifted it like crazy so many times. That's awesome. Yeah, I like those Magnums. I'd like to have one day. Last couple comments and I'm out. So all you guys that are taking off, I'll see you next week. And thank you very much for being here. I appreciate all of you. Dan says, there's a spacer for running 354 heads on 392 block. Yes, I knew that. I have seen those. That makes perfect sense. Greetings again. Lowest Tier Garage. If you just got here, I'm sorry, but you're very late, and we're all going home. See you next week. Lovejoy, thanks for being here. Eugene Bistrika. Hello, Gene. Good to see you. I grabbed that Les Paul that I sold and then got from you, but it's in a case. And I'm out of here. So thanks for being here. Try next week. See you, Evan. Fuck. Avon. Thanks for being here. You too, Fitz. God luck and good speed. I got to go check out that graphic you sent me. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. Love you too, Gene. Have a good week, folks. I'm out.